G'day guys and welcome back to Mr. Kart Class Podcast. I'm your host, 18-time Australian champion David Serra, and today we're going to be looking at when to use positive or when to use negative camber. Now the first thing is, what is camber? So that's changing the angle of the tyre. So as you're looking at it from a front-on point of view, if you've got the tyres pointing towards the inside of the kart, that's going to be negative camber. And if they're pointing towards the outside of the kart, it's going to be positive camber. When we see a lot of our racing cars, they've got suspension, but you're going to notice their tyres are sort of pointing towards the inside, towards the chassis or the frame of the car. So that's going to be negative camber. Now, the instances where you might want to use negative camber are if you've got a lot of front steer. Negative camber tends to generally take away a little bit of steering, but it tends to put a little bit more grip on the back of the car. So we typically see this used more in our high performance categories where we need to have that balance between the front and the rear. And also with the speeds that we're traveling at, it's all about having, a decent amount of steer, but also having that rear traction because we've got a lot of horsepower. The second instance where you might want to use some negative camber is actually looking at the tyre compound that you're using yourself. Now, some tyres, if we're looking at, say, an MG tyre, they might be a little bit squarer in that front tyre. And then you've got some tyres like the LeConte or the Levanto tyre, they're a little bit rounder in shape. So if you've got a rounder tyre, you can use a little bit more negative camber because you're trying to tip the tyres inwards to actually use a part of the tyre that's not really being used when it's dead straight. So that's another time where you want to use a little bit more negative camber. Now, when we're looking to make adjustments, I would say that if you're fine tuning your front end settings, a 1 mil adjustment is good. It's very hard as a driver with limited experience to necessarily feel 1 mil of a change. So I would say when you're starting out, or especially on a practice day, it's good to go to probably 2 mil per time to make the adjustment. And at least that way the driver can say, I could feel a difference, whether that's good or it's bad, but at least then you can fine tune from there. Like I said, at 1 mil increments, it's very hard to actually know whether there was much of an adjustment or not. When we're looking to positive camber, that's going to be better suited for our squarer tyres. So, like I said, the MG tyres, if they have a little bit of a squarer front tyre, then basically you're trying to stand that tyre up, so you're using the full face of the tyre. I sort of tend to use a bit more positive camber with our low performance car classes. So whether that's, our cadets, possibly the 4-strokes, that sort of area is where, you can run a little bit of negative camber. You probably only need maybe, 1 mil of negative camber on a low performance class, but you get into shifter racing or X30 racing, and that might be 4 or 5 mil a side of negative camber. So there's that sort of that 4 or 5 mil per side difference. Now with our positive camber, you might only need to run 1 or 2 positive camber per side, but don't forget that when you're sitting in the go-kart, the tires tend to go towards the inside as well. So if you're running at 2 mil of positive, by the time the driver sits in the kart with that body weight, it would probably be at square, just at 0 camber as well. So look, I always have the front end settings. I set them on the trolley, so I don't sort of set it after sitting in the kart or while I'm sitting in the kart. We just tend to set them at whether it's 2 mil positive, 0, 2 mil negative. We don't sort of sit myself in the kart with that body weight and then go, you know what, we're going to square up the tyre a little bit more or put a little bit more positive camber into it. We don't do that. I hope that helps, when you should be looking to use a little bit of negative camber compared to if you're using a little bit of positive camber. Like I said, if you've got a lot of understeer in the front end, tend to put in a little bit more positive camber because as you start to take away, or as you add more negative, you're starting to use less of the tyre. That's going to probably exaggerate the understeer. And, on the flip side, if you've got a lot of point, like it's just so twitchy in the front end that you want to just sort of take some of that front steer away, then just in 2 mil increments start to go into the negative camber side as well. That's a little bit of information on when you should use a negative and positive camber. If you guys need to know more information on your kart setup, then visit us at kartclass.com. We have our kart setup program that tells you, when you should be looking to make certain adjustments, and I hope this helps you guys out. Thanks for listening. We'll speak to you guys soon. Cheers.